Welcome into the. Oh no, I already screwed up. I can't be hosting this. Damn it. The damn. Okay, can we start over yet here? I suck at this. The DNVR Sports Podcast presented by DraftKings
Denver Sports Podcast.
God damn it! Why does it say DNVR then?
That's our company.
I'm reading off of the page.
I know.
Wow, we gotta. This has been a rough showing. No, AJ. This is AJ. He wants to go home. That's RK over there.
True.
We have a fun show planned for today. We are going to be ranking all of the champions because what's more fun than talking about which of our champions are the worst?
Yeah,
seems like a.
What about which
idea.
of our champions are the best?
Let's just arbitrarily rank them, tear a few of them down along the way, act like they weren't any good, and then move on. It'll be great.
Yeah, some of them just weren't deserving, honestly.
How fucking sick is it that there's 6 now?
6 is a good number.
Yep.
Next one's gonna be for Elway.
I was like,
it's kind of crazy to think that we've got 6 in like my lifetime.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
not
I always
like,
say
not
10,
like, oh, there's a 1965 thrown in there, and
we're like talking about Bill Russell and shit.
yeah, right?
Well,
Like
it is, and I always say 10 in a lifetime. You lived a good life as a sports fan if you get 10. We're all on pace.
I'm at 8.
Wow.
We're not counting KU basketball.
We definitely are because those happened.
When I was a kid, I liked Duke. So do I get to claim those now?
Sure.
I think I'm probably at 10.
Sure.
I did it, guys.
You watch a lot of their games?
No, I don't give a fuck.
I think one of your most exciting upsets was when my Lumberjacks beat them.
I was probably cheering for Stephen F. Austin in that game.
That was sweet. I was too.
Today we are not counting college championships.
Okay.
We're going pro sports only, Big Four only.
Yeah. So like, love the Mammoth and the Outlaws and all that. Like,
Yep.
No disrespect.
I gotta say
love
that
the
Rapids team.
Yeah.
Connor Casey, dude, best champion in
That
Denver
Rapids
sports
team
history.
existed.
So by this, but
No way they were gonna win that, and somehow with a torn ACL on the way there.
how many?
I gotta say that the 2014 Outlaws, unbeatable.
You know the year though. That's cool.
I've just guessed. If you guess any year,
Yeah.
there's a chance the Outlaws
Did
won
the
that year.
Colorado Crush ever get one?
Yes.
Yes, 2007.
Graham Harrell, or no, Damian Harrell.
I had a John Dutton jersey.
Yeah, John Dutton to Harrell. That
Now-
was the connection.
No, that name has been kind of claimed by the guy in Yellowstone.
Is there
but-
anyone else we need to give a nod to? 90 Buffs.
Yeah, 90 Buffs is the
Not-
big one.
Also not really invited to the party.
Sorry. Every hockey championship ever comes from like CU or Denver. So that's fun.
The Pios, obviously.
I mean,
Yep.
Did I say hockey, I meant
The
skiing.
Pios deserve some. Every CU skiing team ever.
Exactly. The steeplechase. Lost steeplechase champions up at CU. But no. Point is, we've got the 3 Avalanche
stretching.
championships. We've got the 3 Broncos championships. And these 2 both put together their rankings. So
You didn't have to put your rankings together?
I'm hosting. I'm
Oh,
hosting.
yeah,
I'm
what is
throwing
this?
it to you guys.
This is some
Wow.
Kirk
Bro,
I was-
Street shit.
I turned like
Can't take a pick because I'm announcing the game.
4 of these happened before I turned 5. So
Fair.
I don't have like I can go back and look, do those sorts of things, just not the same. We're going to get to the rankings later on in the show. We want to start just by kind of running through what happened in all these. Starting with the first one, we're going through in chronological order. 1995, 1996, Colorado Avalanche, they win the cup. 104 points, wind up only losing 6 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you know about this team, AJ?
Which one? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
95, 96, damn it.
No, they were like the biggest thing is that the season started, and they made 2 like gigantic trades after that season started because they traded for Claude Lemieux, who had just won the cup the year before with New Jersey but was holding out. So they traded for Claude Lemieux, and then they traded for Patrick Waugh. Oddly enough, they traded for Patrick Waugh the night after a 10-2 win over the Sharks. Like,
wow.
Imagine like beating a team that badly and then being like, okay, well, now we've added the greatest goaltender of all time, so we can win that game 10-0 next time around.
Is there precedent in any other sport that compares to that trade? Like, at what other sport? Because you could definitely make the argument that goalie is the most important position in hockey.
Yeah.
So in any other sport, has the best player at the most important position been traded mid-season?
mid-season, I mean, obviously Gretzky got traded.
Okay.
Obviously, the Eric Lindros trade was like
the crazy one.
like enormous
shockwaves.
Like with Lindros being one of the most anticipated top prospects. Even today, he would be a top 5, like one of the most anticipated. Like everybody understood this guy was going to be a franchise player.
Like the Broncos trading for Russell Wilson is even like in unprecedented territory of like trades for superstars.
Established, like this guy's going to the Hall of Fame someday.
Right, exactly. And that stuff doesn't happen. But for Patrick Waugh, that is the best goalie of all time, traded in the middle of the season.
Well, and the way that it happens, like talk about sabotaging yourself in such an epic way that your coach leaves him in there and embarrasses him in a game in which he's getting lit up against the Red Wings.
The crazy thing is that
maybe Vassy will demand a trade to the Avalanche for being left in there in game 2.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for Carey Price, for the Carey Price domino, and now it's like nobody wants Carey Price. He's too old, too expensive, too many problems. As great a guy as he is, but you are right, but it is also a unique situation in just the way that it all unfolded, because it wasn't like we knew of like serious issues before he literally goes over and tells the owner during the game, "I'll never play for you again."
Right. And as we've learned about Patrick Waugh since, he's a very spontaneous person.
Patty has Patty's ways. He does what he's going to do, and when he makes up his mind, that's how it goes.
Yep.
going into the season, so this is the first season that they're in Colorado.
Yeah.
They were plus 800 to win the Cup. And that's without Patrick Waugh.
Well, so their last year in Quebec City, they were great. They were upset in the first round of that postseason. So
that's got to make it so much more painful.
Yeah,
it wasn't like this was, you had second year Peter Forsberg coming in. You had prime age Joe Sakic and Adam Foote. It was a team with a lot of talent. Deadmarsh was still young, Kamensky was still in that window, and then they trade for Claude Lemieux, who gives them that extra edge, that snarl, and was arguably one of the greatest playoff performers ever. And then when you add Patrick Waugh, because coming into the year, look, like Stéphane Fiset, as we saw, went on to have a solid career in the NHL, as a starter for the Kings, and Jocelyn Thibault was the goalie prospect in the NHL. He was the way that we talked that Thibault got talked about back then. It's the way that we talk about Spencer Knight, Jake Ottinger, like those young. This guy's going to be a superstar at the position. He's going to be the best of the best. And then, they felt like, hey, we can improve here. We can. It's Patrick Waugh, and we actually found out. Pierre Lacroix had been trying to trade for Patrick Waugh for a while, and it was never going to happen with the team in Quebec City. Right. There was no chance that the Canadiens were going to move Patty Waugh to the Nordiques. There was no. Yeah. It would be like it would be like the Penguins trading Sidney Crosby to the Flyers.
Right.
Like there was just not. It was not going to happen. And then when that team moved to Denver, and then Pierre Lacroix was the guy that had the stones, to make that kind of a move, and that's really, I think, what put them on the path to where they ended up.
I wish one of us was a little bit older, so we could understand what it was like to not just have a team just show up overnight, but also be good when they got here, and then just be like, fuck it. We're getting better, and we're just gonna go like I can't even imagine the rush of getting the team, the rush of them being awesome already, winning 10-2 that night, and then the next day finding out like, oh, now you have the best goalie. I can't. It's all happened so fast.
You mentioned, but they're 8 games into the season they trade for Claude Lemieux.
Yeah,
and Claude Lemieux just won the Conn Smythe the year before. So if you were familiar with hockey at all, and this team shows up in Denver on your doorstep, And then you're like, oh my God, we've got Peter Forsberg, who again was just starting out, and we've got Joe Sakic and Adam Foote. Like, we've got some great players here. And then they add Claude Lemieux 2 weeks into the season. Like, if you're familiar with hockey, you're like, holy crap, man, these guys mean business.
Yes, dude.
And then you fast forward 3 months to December, and they add Patrick Waugh, and you're just like, okay,
ever, yeah.
I guess. Like,
well, it makes sense why there's such an amazing group of Avs fans from that generation, because it's just like they must have just come in and just took the whole place by storm,
Yeah.
Even before they won the cup.
Well,
it just must have been so fun to be like, oh shit, this team is awesome.
I imagine it's basically the same thing that we saw in Vegas, where the expectations, nobody really knew what was going to happen going in, because it was an expansion team. Expectations were pretty low. But then when they took hold and they just started winning games, and the city just got wrapped up in it, and it just created these diehards.
Yeah.
And now look, they're incredibly annoying and we all hate them. But
who?
The Vegas fans and the city and all them. But like, you love how
for the game.
Yeah, it's great. It's great because especially with the old school mentality of hockey in the desert. Are you serious? Has this already not failed in Arizona?
Yeah.
Which is a whole other conversation. Yeah. But like the way that it just shows up and it just instantly works in Vegas is a great thing for the game, and now that's an awesome fan base. That, look, I can't stand Vegas fans, but you have to respect that they care.
Yeah, and it was one of the reasons why I thought they might even make it easier for the Kraken, because I was just like, it worked.
Yeah,
like
it just
it
sparked
sucked
them
for everyone, and it was unfair.
Yeah.
But it instantly made a hockey town out of Vegas.
Yep.
And the opposite happened with the Kraken this year, where just like they sucked. I didn't really hear anything about the hockey culture at all in Seattle.
Great sports town that is like dying to love the Kraken, but it's going to be a couple of years though.
For sure.
Just wrapping this team up, I mean, is there like a moment that stands out? And I feel like just raising the cup doesn't count, because that's going to apply to all these.
Obviously, like, look, the Detroit Red Wings that year won 62 games. It's an NHL record. That's still maybe the greatest regular season team in NHL history was that Red Wings team that year that the Avs opened the season against. First game of the year was against Detroit. And little did we know, right? Like, we had no idea how that would be historically impactful. But I think that's it. Like, it's the 96 Avs are more remembered for the rivalry starting with Detroit than they are winning the cup.
This is a cool comment here. They say when the Avalanche showed up in Colorado, it instantly felt like they had been a team here forever, like the Broncos.
Speaking of the Broncos, jumping in about a year and a half later, the Broncos won their first Super Bowl. They'd been to a bunch, obviously. Go 12-4, beat the Jaguars 42-17, beat the Chiefs 14-10, beat the Steelers 24-21, and then beat the Packers in the Super Bowl. Just Ryan, what stands out about that season?
Well, I've said this a lot over the last few weeks, but I'll say it again here. I think the Avs helped inspire this season. John Elway's the guy. He's Denver, and he's gotten so close and not gotten there. And then the Avs show up and they win the cup, and I just feel like Elway was like, screw this, man.
Well, and so there were two things I think that contribute to this. The Rockies show up and become the fastest expansion team in sports history to make the postseason because they made it in 95. And then the Avs show up and win the cup, and all of a sudden, like, Mr. Big Britches himself, John Elway, is looking around like, I'm the best quarterback in NFL history, and I'm not even the primetime athlete in my own city anymore.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to mention that. And then I think the other thing here is they had just had maybe the biggest letdown of the entire era the year before when they lost to the Jags.
Yep.
And so then they turn around and they get the Jags again in the first round and just pulverize them.
And this is where the revenge tour
Exactly.
And it's
storyline came in.
And it's similar, kind of to the Avs like getting over that second round hump this year. And it almost just felt easy after that, right? Like for the Avs, like it was just like, okay, well, now they're over that, like they sweep the Oilers and like, they go up 2-0 on the Lightning.
I would not say that the Stanley Cup final felt easy.
I'd just say like it felt I don't know.
I gave up 4 years at the end of my life.
I'm
During
not saying
that
it was,
series.
but I just mean like from like a stress standpoint. There's a certain thing of just like clearing a hurdle where you're just like, okay, now we just got to go be us.
Yep.
And I think that's what happened there. It's like they get the Jags again, and it's like, uh-oh, this is their bugaboo. This is the scary Jags.
Well, remember how that game starts?
How
Like,
so?
That game starts like okay,
Yeah.
and then Jacksonville blocks that punt.
Yep.
The
Oh,
punt
yep,
goes
yep.
right into that dude's arm, and he returns it for a touchdown.
Just red
And
flags.
you're getting like Vietnam style flashbacks, right? Where you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm about to live this horror again.
Yep.
And then they end up with, I think multiple guys had 200 yards rushing in that game.
Yeah, that
like
was-
Von Hebron finished with like 80 yards rushing.
Yeah, it's
They
yeah.
pulled Derek LaVille in that game because their backup running back. They like sat him because they were like, we don't need this guy
no point in
because
risking him getting
yeah, because they were blowing them out so badly that I just don't. I don't know. I don't know that there was a comparable for the Avs where it was like they stomped so badly, but it was the way how easy it was in that game, the way that they like sent that message, like this isn't last year. I definitely think that it put them on that trajectory
Yep.
to go through the grind that they would go through the next 2 weeks.
Right, and it's like you get past a certain hurdle and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Now you just worry about you, and you worry about playing your style of football. I think we can go through each game. There's always got to be a Steelers game in a Broncos playoff run.
The Chiefs
And the Chiefs, of
I
course.
mean, you're in Kansas City. They're down at the end of the field at the end of the game. They're you win that game with essentially a goal line stand. Like they're throwing into the end zone to win the game, and that's how you stop them.
Yep.
And that's winning in Kansas City. You remember, it used like winning in Kansas City in December used to be like
It still is.
nobody ever did it, and now like nobody just wins in Kansas City. But back then it was still like a huge thing, and like that was your division rival. They were better than you that year. They won that division.
Yep.
Like, you're on the road that game. You're 12-4, but you're on the road that game for a reason.
And I think Elway had a very average at best game. Like
That game finishes 14-10, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was
so-
like 13 of 29 or something. Like it was rough. Like they had to kind of scrape through that one.
Yeah, I can pull this up right here. He was oh, did I go by it? There it is. 10 of 19, 170 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions.
So yeah,
Had one rush, went backward. He also lost a fumble.
and that's 25 carries for TD, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Just grinding it
Yeah,
out.
grind it out
Just,
of the die.
I mean, literally 4 yards in a cloud of dust. 25 carries for 100 yards.
Yeah, grind.
Just grind it out.
Well, but in both teams, like
Yep. Maybe it was the game before, or maybe it's the game after that Elway had like crazy bad stats. But that one, I mean, again, like you said, you didn't win the division, they did.
yeah, and that was a big game. And then obviously going into Pittsburgh,
Yep.
you've got Cordell Stewart at quarterback, and
I love Cordell Stewart.
well, and that was the thing is it was like going against one of your own, right?
Yeah.
So,
Let me see what the stats were in that one. I want to see if this was the game that.
what you got?
Okay, Elway in this one is 18 of 31 for 210 and 2 touchdowns. But yeah,
He was not good in the Super Bowl.
well, and so you get to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And that's where this one is a little bit like the Avs this year. It's like you're getting the team going for it.
And the 0-1
Totally,
and the
yeah.
0-1 Avs.
Yeah.
You're talking about taking away the defending champion.
Yep.
And to put things in perspective, I mean, the Packers are 11-point favorites in that game. The Packers went into the season plus 250 to win that Super Bowl.
Did it
250.
finish at- Did it finish at 11? God, I thought it was higher than that.
I thought it was 14.
So did I.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, and that's crazy. If you're not into sports betting, like it is rare in a given week in the football season to have double-digit favorites in the NFL. Like, you'll get them. You know, the Chiefs are playing the Texans, and it's like a 16-point spread. But we're talking about the best teams versus the worst teams.
You're talking about the Super Bowl.
Get double-digit spreads. This is the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and the Broncos are double-digit dogs. And let's not forget that this is the team that can't get it done in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So no one is giving them a chance.
Well, against defending champs,
Brett Favre.
back-to-back MVP.
Yep.
Like, you're talking about, like, this. They were very much like the Tampa Bay Lightning just were. They were the final boss.
I would love to live in an alternate universe where I could see what like our coverage would have looked like leading up to that game, because people like
It would have been a lot more high-pitched.
it was hopeful, you know, but people did not believe the Broncos were going to go beat the Packers.
How could
and I'm
you?
sure they did in Denver, and you know the fans were hopeful, but
Lost
again,
4 Super Bowls to that point, right?
they lost 4, and they hadn't been in a long time, and it was like, oh, here we go again. You know, they're kind of backing their way into the Super Bowl against
We're a
this
wild card
powerhouse
team.
Yep.
Plus 250 to win the Super Bowl before the season. That's wild.
The Avs were plus 400 to win the cup this year, and that felt like it was absurdly low odds.
That's just a crazy number.
They were right. They protected themselves on that one. But, yeah, so that, you know, to go in and win that game, and there's so many, obviously the helicopters, you know,
and
the
again,
moment.
how does that
Easily.
game start? First drive of the game, Green Bay just walks down the field, scores a touchdown, and that was your big concern about
You're having flashbacks of
Denver's
Montana to
defense,
Rice.
though.
And,
You know, Denver's defense was the big question because it was just okay.
Yep.
You know, they were good players, but as a unit, they weren't very good.
Yep.
And then the other big question was, well, Denver's offense is built around its running game now. And you remember their defensive line was gigantic, and Gilbert Brown in the middle of it. And the whole storyline was the Broncos don't have a single offensive lineman that weighs over 300 pounds.
Yep.
How are they going to handle the Packers' beef in the middle? How are they going to handle that defensive line that's going to chew up their running game, right? It's going to just dominate.
Which, like, that was also by design, having a smaller line.
Yeah.
And
It wasn't an accident.
right, but that wasn't the story back then.
Totally not.
The story was small line get beat up, and that's not how that game went. Remember?
Yeah.
By the end of it, Gilbert Brown, like, on the one knee, like, please God, let this be over.
Yeah.
And that was a Mike Shanahan plant, too.
Yeah,
Like,
of
he was
course.
hyping it up, going to the media, saying, they're not big enough. Like, we're small. I'm not sure if they can do it. Just get under
we'll
their
see
skin
how
like
it
that.
goes.
And then they score 4 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah.
All 4 of them 1-yard touchdown runs.
So great.
So great.
And again, I feel like TD is almost underappreciated, and TD is adored in this town.
Yeah.
But John Elway is John Elway, of course, and he always will be, and he deserves to be John Elway. But TD in this game is 30 carries for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns.
In a game that, keep in mind, he got pulled from because he had migraines.
Yep.
And sat out stretches of that game.
Yep.
And literally went back in and was used purely as a decoy because he couldn't see.
And John Elway's 12 for 22 for 123 yards and a pick.
And the pick comes after the recovered fumble on the kickoff.
So, again, I'm not trying to tear down John Elway here. I'm trying to uplift TD. TD I feel like, I don't know. I feel like he should be revered even more than he is.
Absolutely.
That,
I mean, it's just
that
a short
whole
career.
playoff run is TD.
Absolutely.
That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
I was going to say, he's in the Hall of Fame because of his postseason success.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it started in that playoffs. That's where it began, his dominance. Where, look, Terrell Davis was a great regular season player, but what he did in the postseason still is pretty much unmatched in NFL history.
Yep.
And that's where it began. That was like and we look back on it now and we're like, that's where the journey started.
Yep.
But as we were going through it, it was like Terrell Davis hadn't won the MVP yet. He was still on the ascent in that career.
Yep.
He was not Terrell Davis yet.
And you also have to remember it's Nikola Jokic-esque in the sense that he's a late draft pick.
Yeah, it was a sixth round pick that he was the first guy of the late round undrafted of all the running back finds that Mike Shanahan would
go on
unearth during his time as head coach. So
in the same way,
spent a lot of time on these two teams
I know,
alone.
I know.
Yeah.
In the same way that beating the Jags was a hurdle, obviously winning the fucking Super Bowl is a huge lift off of their shoulders.
Yeah.
They've now reclaimed the town, and
And immediately put themselves on the map as the destination for guys that wanted to go win. Because you remember Neil Smith?
Neil Smith, yes.
Neil Smith becomes the free agent, been terrorizing John Elway his entire career in Kansas City, and then says, I'm going to go take a 1-year deal and go win a Super Bowl in Denver instead. Sorry.
And it works.
And it
1998.
works, man.
Terrell Davis is the MVP. They cruise to a Super Bowl, win every game by double digits in the playoffs.
so
What was the Miami game? Was it 31-3?
38-3.
38.
Come on. Put some respect on the name, AJ.
But I don't want to jump too far ahead too fast, because I think it's so important to realize that this team was like, oh, we win Super Bowls now.
Yeah.
That's just who we are.
Yeah. The expectation went from, like, they were the team that ended the AFC's losing streak in the Super Bowl to, like, this is the God mode team now.
Yes. And so they start 13-0. And it's just like, it's just heaven in Denver at this point. Like, everyone's like, oh my God, we can never be stopped. What's crazy, though, is there's also two other dominant teams in the Falcons and the Vikings in the NFL. The Falcons go 14-2, just like the Broncos, and the Vikings go 15-1, which
Wild.
is just crazy.
It's funny, the Broncos from that year and the parallel that I draw from the most recent Avs is that at the end of the year they got bored.
Yep.
And that's where the Broncos lost those couple of games. And that's where the Avs at the end of the year, they finished 4-5-1, which keeps them from having a top 5 NHL regular season ever to go along with the postseason that they would put up. But it was fascinating, I think, that both of those teams ended up creating doubt around them because they got bored at the end of the year. Because they had been so good for so long. They clinched things. Things were, they were good. Like, they didn't need those games anymore. They just had to play them. They were, like, obligated to play them. But they didn't need them for any reason. And those teams got complacent and bored, and then that created, like, this doubt around them of, like, well, maybe they're not actually that good. Did they peak too soon? It's like sports writers' favorite conversation every year.
And obviously we're a lot more privy to the way it happened this year with the Avs. But, like, as much as the Kendall column gets destroyed, rightfully so,
it's one of the single dumbest things I've ever read in my life.
it
really was the most reactionary. I can't believe he didn't blow both knees out on the desk from how hard they had jerked to write that thing.
Yes.
It was the most absurd, stupid, uneducated, like, just bullshit thing that I had ever read. One of my least favorite things in our industry is getting accused of clickbait, and that's legitimately all that was. He got that click, and he just started smoking a cigar.
Yeah,
that's all that was. The whole article could have just been a picture of him smoking a cigar.
It's kind of crazy.
It would have been better.
It's kind of crazy that there was a time that the, for lack of a better term, blog industry was the ones getting the clickbait stuff thrown at them.
Yeah.
And now it's the traditional places that are throwing out the bullshit clickbait. Anyways, I was going to say, as bad as that was, that let people off the hook for some terrible takes that came out during the 4-5-1 stretch. I mean, just some awful garbage came out during that time.
It was pretty funny because I went on 9 News and did a thing with them, and they were like, "So are you worried about this?" No, I started laughing, and I was like, "No, not at all."
I mean,
this is the stupidest thing.
They're
ever.
arresting everyone.
Literally, I tell people, had it started a week earlier, I would have been concerned. But the fact that they blow out the Carolina Hurricanes on home ice, they clinch the division, they clinch the home seed, they do everything, right? Like, they clinch all of it in one night, and it starts the very next game. Really?
Yeah.
We're trying to act like this is not a coincidence. Really? Like, they start sitting guys. Like, it was the silliest shit, man. It was Ben Myers is playing, a guy that had just been playing college hockey a week before.
And In the same way that the
Silliest.
Avs, and we'll get to them in a second, same way the Avs come out and just put all of that to sleep so quickly by sweeping the Preds, the Broncos do the same thing in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, Dan Marino rolls in, and you're like, it's Marino, it's Elway. And then Marino forgets to get on the plane, as do the rest of the Dolphins, essentially. And 38-3, that game was never close.
No.
What was the end of that? What was the score of that game at the end of the first quarter?
End of the first quarter, 14-0.
Yeah, so you were already on your way.
You were on your way.
They hadn't done anything. There was no resistance in that game.
Dan Marino, 26-37, 243 with 2 picks.
Good for him.
Yeah. I expected worse. The 2 picks do a lot of the work there, I guess, but I would have expected worse.
I guess.
I have put up 3 points. Yeah.
It's 3 points, man.
They turn around the next week, do it again, 23-10
Yeah.
over the Jets.
Well, and that game was, 3-0 at halftime, I think?
Yeah.
And that was the one with the...
That is 3-0 at halftime. Correct. 20-point third quarter. It's just over then.
Yeah. Well, and then it was Vinny Testaverde going to come back on you on the road? No, dude.
Yep. And
Absolutely not.
And
then you get the all-time great break in.
Well, that's what I was going to say. At the same
Minnesota.
time, Minnesota blows it to the Falcons.
This is one field goal all year. That's the one that would have put them in the Super Bowl.
It's incredible.
Oh, that's
hurts. Minnesota, though. It's what they do.
Yeah.
It's
well, and had they not missed that field goal, then they would have found some comical way to blow the Super Bowl against Denver anyway.
Probably.
So.
Or maybe there's an alternate universe, We talk about how the Broncos broke through the year before. And it's like, oh, yeah, we win Super Bowls now. What if Minnesota, the entire state of sports, just takes a different trajectory because they capitalize on that?
I'm not open to that idea.
I love that. I love that.
As much as Randall Cunningham, Chris Carter, and Randy Moss were fun to watch that year.
Rookie of the year that year.
I'm not open to that.
And I think it's important to note, even if Minnesota wins that, the Broncos are still a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah.
That year. Now, it
Right.
would have been a game.
But we got robbed of that game the same way that we got robbed of Penguins Avs in '96 with Lemieux, Yager, and Ron Francis against Sakic and Forsberg and Waugh.
Yeah.
We got robbed of what could have been an all-time great series.
Instead,
Super Bowl.
The Broncos finish off a just insane year by blowing out the Falcons.
Yeah.
34-19, and it's
the Dirty Birds.
Jamal
Anderson didn't do a lot of dancing that night.
No. I have 2 big memories of just that time. One is Rod Smith's long touchdown,
which barely was on TV because they came back late from commercial.
Exactly. All of a sudden, you're just like,
yeah. The way that it unfolded, it was like, whoa! Is this live?
Yes.
Wait, what's going on here? And then you find out that it was Eugene Robinson, who had played for the Packers the previous year. And remember, the sideline audio had caught him calling the Broncos the Indianapolis Colts, because at the time that was a sick burn. And then Robinson goes to the Falcons the next year. He gets arrested right before that Super Bowl for soliciting a prostitute, and then comes out and gets torched by Rod Smith on that play. And you're just like, this is amazing karma.
Just imagine that. It cuts back from commercial as Kadri's driving to the
right. Yeah, it's none of the play leading up, just the part where he gets the puck coming across the blue line.
Yeah, so you're just like,
we're like, whoa. I'm really excited, but what the hell?
Oh, it's incredible.
In the Super Bowl, the most expensive production in the world.
What is the lasting moment of this season? It's a tougher one because you don't have the helicopter. I don't even know it's in the Super Bowl.
TD 2,000 yards.
Ooh, when that flashes up on the scoreboard. 2,000 for TD. It's an MVP year for him.
Yeah, I guess. That's fine. I'm good with that.
It's so. But that's almost the thing
that's
about
solid.
this team is there wasn't really moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just won.
When you kick the holy shit out of everybody every week, you're just sort of like, well, okay.
Yep.
Business as usual.
What were the Broncos to win the Super Bowl that year?
Plus 800, I believe.
Okay, so the same as Avs 96.
Plus 600. They were plus
Okay,
600.
Plus 600.
One
Still
final
how?
note on that season. Ed McCaffrey, Rod Smith, first ever wide receiver duo to both go for 1,000 yards. Carl Durrell, the wide receivers coach.
Hey.
Yeah.
Way to get Carl in there.
We've got
also,
3 more
someone said
championships.
no love for the Buffs in 1990. We did give love.
Yeah, you
We
guys-
gave them love. This is pro Big Four championships only.
You had to have missed the first like 3 minutes.
I mean,
We
I
wanted
guess we
to
didn't
dig
give
into
them much
these.
love. I just said they aren't invited to the party.
yeah.
I guess that's really love, is
We
it?
have lots of parties for them in my heart.
We do. We're all partying in Ryan's heart. And at those parties, we bring Breckenridge beers
Let's go.
inside his heart.
that transition though.
They've been doing so much awesome stuff. They've been taking Avs fans to Avs games. They've been donating money to the Boulder County Community Fund whenever somebody buys an Avalanche for that whole playoff run. It's great stuff. We love them. They support us. They support the community.
Gave out a lot of free beers with that brew for a two for a brew promotion.
There were a lot of twos. There were a lot of twos.
Yeah, it was a good. They were good in the first period.
It's good stuff. It's good beers. This Avalanche playoff run might technically be over, but I feel like tomorrow is a big day to be drinking Avalanche Amber Ales. It's kind of the last one.
I'm going to get slumped off Breck
I
Brews
know.
tomorrow.
If I know my name when they're giving speeches, I failed. I failed. Tomorrow is the ultimate celebration. Breckenridge Brewery, they're awesome. Like I said, they support us. You should support them because that's how you help us. And go to breckbrew.com to figure out where you can pick up whatever beer you want to try. Also, DraftKings Sportsbook. We've got a new promotion from them. UFC 267?
Sure.
Yeah, UFC 267 is probably this weekend on Saturday. There's some big fights on the card. You pick anybody to win their fight, bet $5 on it. You'll get $100 in free bets whether you're right or wrong. They're
All right.
killed it.
I think you said 267.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. It's the same thing. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome stuff.
267 was a great one though.
I bet.
267. So, yeah. I made some bets yesterday. I lost a bunch of money on the women's soccer team. And my issue with that one was like, I know they're not going to win this by 5 goals. The spread was 4.5. It's like it's soccer. So I was like, well,
bet on Columbia.
exactly. I know Columbia's not going to score, so we're just picking 4-0 exactly, and it wound up being 2-0. So I failed there, but I'm going to win it back. So much fun stuff to bet on, baseball stuff to bet on, and like I said, download the
We bet on
DraftKings
darts.
Sportsbook app. Have you ever done that?
Betting on darts?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Rudo and I bet on that shit.
We need to
Really?
go to a darts event.
Oh shit!
That was the greatest idea I've ever heard.
do they do that in America?
Yes.
They actually just did in what, New York a couple weeks ago?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so. Normally they aren't here, but that one was.
Dude. Because you can always tell. Rudo's right. As soon as you see the guy
Really?
at the very beginning, you can always tell who's locked in that day and who's about to have a bad day, and then you can just make money
What
off of
channel are they airing that on these days?
It was in New York, 2022 U.S. Darts Masters.
that. I
That seems like a stolen
usually
name.
see it on one of the ESPNs.
Okay. All right.
So.
Sounds
Okay. I'm in on that.
I'm going to assume 2.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code
Fucking
DMVR.
ESPN
Bet
classic
$5 on
darts.
any UFC 276 fighter to win. You'll get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code DMVR this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. And by that, I think they mean must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right. We got 3 championships to go through before we hit these rankings. I feel like we've kind of set the stage for all of them, right? Like you got to get the first ones in, you
Yeah.
kind of build off of those. Next up, though, of course, is the second one for the Colorado Avalanche. They win in 2001, 118 points, come into the season at plus 600 to win the cup. They got tested in those playoffs, right, AJ?
Yeah. It was a lot tougher postseason. Started out pretty ho-hum.
Mm-hmm.
But that series against the Kings was war. They got shut out. Felix Potvin has the like series of his life. Almost steals it from Colorado. The Avs win it in 7. Lose Peter Forsberg to the spleen removal surgery immediately after. And then roll in, house the Blues, as they always do in the postseason, because St. Louis ain't shit. And then they have one of the all-time great Stanley Cup Finals against the New Jersey Devils. The defending champs against the President's Trophy winning Avalanche. Something like 10 Hall of Famers in that series. Just an incredible array of talent, generational superstars. It was heavyweight on heavyweight. I mean, that's what that was. And the Avs down 3-2 in that series, go into New Jersey. Patrick Waugh plays an incredible game, steals Game 6. They win Game 6, come back home, and honestly, win Game 7, kind of drama-free.
Yeah. One thing that I think is important to remember about this is when we look back, we lump 96 and 2001 together as if they're one thing. And
there's a lot of pain.
There's so much time in between those.
Yeah.
And you lose Forsberg, it's just here we go again.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting our hearts broken again.
Who wins a championship when you lose arguably your best player?
It's very rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare.
And you're right in that we lump them in, but like 97, you lose in the conference finals to Detroit.
Yep.
You watch your blood rival win 2 cups in a row.
Yep.
98, you lose in the first round to Edmonton. It's an inexcusable, mind-boggling loss. And then 2 years in a row, you lose in Dallas in Game 7.
Yeah.
And you have to listen. You have to listen to Dallas fans chant Eddie's better because they think Ed Belfour's better than Patrick Waugh, and they beat you. They beat you twice in a row. And the Joe Sakic plays his worst postseason ever in '99. They get on the airplane to fly back to Denver after they lose, and Waugh, Foote, and Ray Bourque go back and they on the team airplane, and they talk to Joe Sakic and they say, "You have to be better. Ray Bourque, Ray will play one more year, but you have to be better. You were not good enough in this postseason. You were too pedestrian, and you have to be a leader for this team." This is Joe Sakic.
The captain.
About. We're talking about one of the 10 greatest skaters of all time here.
Yeah.
And these guys are telling him he needs to be better. But when you're Ray Bourque, who's one of the 5 best defensemen ever, and Patrick Waugh, who's the best goaltender ever, you have that kind of cachet to say shit like that to him. And
he agrees. Obviously.
He says, bet.
Yeah.
And
the kids were saying back then.
That's what. And you look at the year that the Avs had. They come out start of the year. Ray Bourque signs a 1-year deal, and they come out and they dominate the NHL that year, wire to wire, best team in hockey, no doubt about it. Left no doubt. They dominated that year, and took it away from New Jersey. Got the home ice because they said, we're sick of going on the road for Game 7. We're sick of it. We're not doing that anymore.
Yep.
And so their priority was, we want home ice. And so they took the President's Trophy very seriously. Juan Hayduk sat right there earlier in the regular season, and I asked him, and I said, what made you guys so driven to win the President's Trophy and get that home ice? And he just said, we were tired of losing on the road. We were tired of going into do-or-die games in somebody else's barn and having to tackle all the challenges that involved.
Which is
and
why
it pays off for them.
Which is why I was anti not going for the President's Trophy this year. Because just imagine how different it is if instead of having the first 2 games of the Cup at home as just like a celebration, you know, the whole thing was just so... like, I don't even know what the word is, like angelic, like it was just like heaven in Denver. The Cup, you know, Stanley Cup final are back. Instead, you're on the road, and it's just like that you're up against that. Now, thankfully, the Panthers flamed out like a
and that was this is why I wasn't that concerned about it, is
they
because
weren't built for it.
There was very clearly 2 teams that were fighting for the President's Trophy, and you're like, look, this is a team that has no postseason success whatsoever. If we see them in the final, then kudos to them, and we got to go through them.
Yep.
But that wasn't the case. I mean, they were not battle-tested in any meaningful way.
But having home ice is huge.
Yeah.
It is just so big.
The advantage is big, for sure.
Yep.
Lasting moment?
From 2001, I mean,
Yeah.
Ray Bork lived in
Oh,
the
of
cup.
course,
Yeah,
of course.
You're talking about one of the iconic NHL
Easy.
Sports moments. Iconic
Yeah.
sports moments.
After
I
that,
mean-
though, you have the biggest break in not having a championship in Denver since
it
they started
started.
winning.
Yeah.
Get to 2015 with the
Fun
Broncos.
6 years.
Yep. And this,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it, and I guess I'm giving away my rankings here. But this was the least fun championship season ever.
Yeah.
Like, maybe in sports history. I don't know enough about how other fans feel about their championship seasons. This was a grueling, grind it out. I mean, every second of the season felt difficult. There was nothing easy that happened except for the game against the Packers.
Peyton Manning loses his job.
Peyton Manning,
He was terrible.
he was like,
dude.
he was like the NBA stars in Space Jam. Like,
Oh,
he
dude,
just
he-
lost his powers
He got
overnight.
monstered hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Regular season, 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions.
I'm telling you,
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, the guy who was here to just make all of our lives amazing, and he did for 3 years,
Yeah.
gets monstered,
Yeah.
and every second of that season was hard.
It felt like crawling through a field of broken glass.
It really did. And I'm telling you, remember, you're coming off of, you made the Super Bowl in 2013, you lose in the first round in 2014, and it's just like,
Well, and so you have the Mile High Miracle. That
Right.
starts all that.
and so
And so you're feeling like these missed opportunities are stacking
Yeah.
up.
and everyone was already feeling cynical about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it made for a miserable experience the whole season. I mean, this was at the peak of my sports radio listening days.
Yep.
Sports radio every Monday, really every single day, was a slog. Was why they're not good enough. This is bad. They're screwed.
There was never an off season for being miserable about a winning football team.
Yeah, they won their first 7 games.
They're 7-0, and it felt
Yeah.
horrible. And it almost just felt like they just keep lucking into
Yeah.
all these wins.
That season is actually the season that took me off of watching every Broncos game religiously.
It was
Because
tough.
Broncos fans were not fun to be around. It was not a fun community to be a part of. It was angry all the time. No matter what, it was angry all the time.
And I think the big thing is this is an offensive juggernaut previously
Yeah.
that overnight turned into a defensive juggernaut, and no one was ready for it, mentally.
You didn't expect Peyton Manning to be terrible.
Well, and
Who saw
right.
that coming?
We sat through how many stupid ass conversations about how Peyton Manning was such a great leader and he was so smart that he would get all the guys in the right position to go 3 and out over and over and over and over. And you were just like, dude, the offense is bad. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop.
But the defense keeps making plays.
Right. And what I will say is eventually you started to believe in the defense.
Well, you
And-
just started to know.
Right.
All right, well, Vaughn's going to do something crazy, or DeMarcus is going to do something crazy. Somebody, Talib is going to make a play. You knew one of these guys was going to come up with the play that pushes the offense to get it to get it in just enough of a gear to get him across the finish line.
In a similar way that you just knew Tebow was going to make a play when he had to.
Yep.
You just knew this defense was going to make a play when they had to. It doesn't matter what you think about Tebow. In the end of those games, you felt like something was going to happen, and in the end of these games, you felt like something was going to happen, and they strip sacked Teddy Bridgewater, and they housed the Jamal Charles fumble, and it's just every week, Aqib Talib has the pick, it's Darian Stewart who picks off Joe Flacco in week 1. It's just one after another.
Bradley Roby, week 2 against Kansas City,
Yes.
returns the fumble for a touchdown. Yeah. Forced 5 turnovers in that second game.
Right, that was the Tebow games were more fun because
It's Tebow.
right.
It's not Peyton Manning putting up 18 points.
Yeah, you didn't have any expectations, and then crazy shit just kept happening, and you were like, "This is the weirdest stretch of football I've ever seen." And the Manning, the 2015 Broncos were just grueling to sit through.
They really were. And what's funny is you get the bye week at 6-0. Again, no one's happy. But then you turn around, and I believe it was Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
you blow out Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Yep.
And I think that's when people started to think like, oh, it's the defense that carries this team. And Peyton actually had a good game and whatnot. And so then everyone starts to believe again. Well, then you get blown out, or sorry, you lose to the Colts. That's the eye poke game. And then you get blown out by the Chiefs the very next week. And it's like, okay, and that's obviously the Peyton Manning awkward record game. Where he sets the yardage record, but he's like throwing picks on every other play. And the Broncos lose 29-13 to the Chiefs.
Yep. That's the game that started the losing streak to the Chiefs. They still haven't beat them.
Yes. And then, of course, the Brock era starts, and it kind of changed. I think maybe that's when it changes. When it's now it's house money, kind of.
The overtime win over New England.
Right. That was incredible.
Was fun.
That was.
That was a fun football game.
Because that's a team you have to go through.
Kind of changes as Brock comes in. There's like this new hope. Maybe Brock is special. Turns out no. But there was.
I thought they should have kept starting him.
Mania. Like, you got a jersey. You were one of thousands.
Man, ref my first touchdown pass.
Sucker.
And because of that, I think it rejuvenates the season a little bit, makes it a little more fun. Obviously. Week 17 against the Chargers. To me, this is the moment. You're going to ask me what's the lasting moment.
Yeah.
At least from a regular season standpoint, this is the lasting moment, is Peyton comes back in.
Yeah.
And leads them to win. And again, through all of the bullshit, all of the complaining, they're the number 1 seed.
What felt terrible about Peyton coming back in is like the things that were happening weren't Brock's fault.
I know.
Like you got like
C.J. Anderson
like fumbling multiple times in that game. You're just like, look, they just need a different energy here.
Yep.
It's like pulling a goaltender it's gotten left hanging out to dry, right? Where you're just like, you're trying to change the energy here. You're just trying to flip a switch, and then he comes back in, and it's like,
well, and there's an all-time great clip mic'd up in the huddle as he's coming out, and I can't remember who starts it. It might have been Columbus, but they just go, Peyton fucking Manning, and then another guy's Peyton fucking Manning, and then he goes and he leads them, and they win, and they get the 1 seed, which is just like
yeah.
I mean
New England
every moment of the season
away.
Sucks.
Given their point differential, the expected wins were 9.7 for that season, and you're the 1 seed,
and they're the 1 seed, and
it comes into play.
It comes into play big time. It comes into play
how
big
funny
time.
was that?
And
New
then
England
you go
throws that thing away at the end.
Yep,
Von Miller story after that.
Right, as I was going to say, and that's when the defense truly cements themselves as one of the greatest defenses of all time, because they go through Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, and not just any Cam Newton. I believe unanimous MVP Cam Newton.
That was MVP Cam Newton.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
when you look back on it and you're like, well, Cam Newton, but it's like that was MVP Cam.
He was a freak.
He was the future of the league.
He was, and so. Vaughn obviously goes crazy. DeMarcus Ware just like full on in a similar way that like EJ just like turned back the clock during these playoffs.
Well, and like
DeMarcus Ware just turns back the clock.
Malik Jackson puts himself in line for $90 million.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the no-fly zone is really becomes the no-fly zone.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible run into that Super Bowl where once again the Broncos are heavy underdogs.
Yeah.
7-point dogs, I believe. And I'll just say this from being there. I was in Santa Clara and going, every morning to the Broncos media availability, and then you go to the Panthers media availability. And the Broncos had this like quiet confidence and swagger about them. And it was so palpable. It was just like, man,
like
this team doesn't feel like they need to prove anything to anyone, but you can tell they just believe it. And you go and see the Panthers, and it was this fake, tough swagger, like that was like very manufactured, and like
the dude that has to tell everybody he bad all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Then he gets punched in the mouth, and he not that bad anymore.
And I was just like, I don't actually think they believe that they're those guys.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make everyone else think they're those guys. And I just remember sitting there and talking to a couple other media members, and I was just like, the Broncos are winning this game. Like, just look at the way that they're acting.
And you remember, like, the other storyline, when you watch on TV, everybody's picking the Panthers, but what they're saying is, Panthers have the #1 offense in the league. Broncos are like below the middle of the pack. Broncos have the number 1 defense in the league. Panthers have the number 2 defense in the league.
Right.
That difference, though, between what the Panthers had on defense and just the all-time sort of defense the Broncos had, like that, there was one really elite group that played in that game that will be remembered forever, and that's why they won.
And it
was an
there's
all-time
so
great group.
All-time. Top
there's-
5 ever. You can't argue it.
There's so few memorable offensive moments in that game from the Broncos.
I know.
But you can remember damn near every defensive possession.
Yeah.
You know, it either ends in a strip sack or like 3 straight QB pressures resulting in a 3 and out. It's just like one after another. There's obviously a Aqib Talib like slinging Philly Brown 20 feet with his face
Oh
mask.
my God. Trying to explain to my grandmother there was actually not that bad of a play to get a personal foul. It's like, it's 4 yards. It doesn't really matter. He set the tone.
I think Aqib got 2 personal fouls
He
in the
did.
first quarter. In today's NFL, he's ejected.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Lasting moment?
Like I said,
Peyton
Peyton
coming
coming
back?
back into the huddle, and then this one's for Pat.
Yeah, this one's for Pat. Also, I mean, that C.J. Anderson overtime run. Any of those
Yeah,
Vaughn sacks in the playoffs, it's tough to pick one. The strip
Yeah,
sack is probably the one.
The strip sack touchdown, like
That's tough to beat.
Yeah, the strip sack where he flipped it behind him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And TJ
it's
Ward
so
picks it up
dirty.
and falls down at the 1
It's
yard
a
line.
hockey play.
And it takes him 7 tries to get it in from there.
I mean, also like Cam Newton just staring at the ball on the ground in the Super Bowl.
And jumping back from it.
We've got one more to talk about. I bet you guys know where this one's going.
This
You,
could be
you may have
pretty
heard.
quick, I mean.
I think we've handled it. Yeah. The Avs just won the Stanley Cup a couple days ago. We just lived through it. I mean, lasting moment. What is it?
Real quick, before we do that, shout out to Ivaka TV, who is allowing fans to follow with these teams, specifically the Avs, and the Nuggets, and the Rockies, and the Rapids. So make sure you check out our friends over at Ivaka TV. It's so cheap. It's a great way to follow these teams. Who knows if they're even going to be back on TV next year.
Yeah.
So Ivaka's there for you if you want to watch the Avs. If you became an Avs fan during this run when all the games were on national TV, well, you're going to need Ivaka so you can watch them next year.
And also Manscaped. Everybody talks about like looking good in the warmer months. Gotta take care of yourself so that you smell good too. That's where why Manscaped is here to help you take care of the things you need to take care of. Manscaped's Ultra Smooth package makes sure you have the proper care for down there, and their Boxers 2.0 gives you the perfect stage to show off the new look. The products may make you look hot, but your cleanly shaved nethers will keep you cool, especially with the Boxers 2.0 patented jewel pouch technology that keeps your boys from turning any beach days into a swamp day. Dive headfirst into summer by joining the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com/DNVR.
It's just great writing.
It is.
It's so good. We got to hire whoever that is. So, lasting moment from this year's Avalanche Cup run.
Real quick, I think it's important to set the stage at least a little bit.
Okay.
In terms of the back-to-back-to-back round 2 losses. Like, the way that this team was the Stanley Cup favorite last season. They win the President's Trophy last season. Obviously, they go up 2-0 on Vegas. It doesn't end up happening. Like, it's such an important part of the story to me that they were trending towards being one of those teams of like, oh, they just can't get it done. But this
San Jose Sharks.
yeah. But this, and I remember you talking about San Jose, you know, just a couple years ago, like, don't take the window for granted, because if you do, and it doesn't come, you know, before you know it, all these guys are going to be old and nothing will be there. But it was, to me, it was very clear throughout many moments of the season that this team was different.
Yeah, I mean, that what was it, 19 home games in a row they won?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just watch. Just if you sit there and watch those games, like, it was obvious that team was, it's special.
God, I forgot about that streak. I
Yeah.
already forgot about it.
That was
so
so
long
fun.
ago.
So fun.
They're just such a wagon.
Ends to Arizona.
I know, and that was the one where I was like, oh, I got to bet big on this. There's
Yeah.
no way they're losing, and then bang.
I was
Awesome
surprised
money.
I didn't see more Coyotes fans taking a victory lap about having a winning record against the Avs this year.
I'm not going to take shots at Coyotes fans.
That's so sweet of you. Yeah.
Lasting moment.
Yeah.
For me, the lasting moment of this year, it's not a moment, but it's just Cale Makar's ascent. It's the realized potential, talking to, he could be so special. He could be this. He could be that. Well, he just won the Conn Smythe. He just had the, third or fourth highest scoring postseason in NHL history by a defenseman. He just won the Norris Trophy with an 86-point season. And the guy that he beat, he turbo dunks on in round 1 head-to-head. As he puts up 9 points in 4 games and becomes the first defenseman ever to do that. He just ascended the throne. And, on draft day, when these kids get drafted in all sports, we always talk about, it could be this, it could be that. It could, the excitement here and the excitement there, but to actually just see it.
Yeah.
And to see a guy realize that potential and to understand as it's in taking place that this is what we're seeing is special, that it's rare, that he's a freak, that he's putting himself on the path to be one of the 2 or 3 best players at his position in NHL history, that there isn't a comparable for him, that he's that guy, and look, I say this with no disrespect, but there have been Nathan McKinnons. There have been great centers in NHL history. Nathan McKinnon's not even the greatest center in Avalanche history.
Yeah.
He's not even the second greatest center in Avalanche history.
Which is not a knock on him in any way.
It's not, but it goes to show you that there are those dudes, there are guys like that. There's a lot more of them, and there's nobody like Cale Makar.
Yeah.
Cale Makar is the difference. He is the difference in attitude. He is the difference in the way that the Avs play. He is the difference in how teams can defend Colorado. He is the difference in how teams attack Colorado. He is everything about him is just different. And I think this is the year. He's 23 years old, and he's won the Calder Trophy. He's won the Conn Smythe. He's won the Norris. He's won a Stanley Cup.
And the Hobie Baker.
And
he's the only person ever to do that.
But I mean, he's 23 years old, and he's won all of that.
He's basically
NHL hardware. He's got 2 things left to do. That's win a Hart.
How many D-men have done that?
Go into the Hall of Fame. A defenseman hasn't won the Hart since 2001 when Chris Pronger won it.
I think it's
going to happen. To me,
he's the kind of guy that could put himself in that position. The hardest part will be the team around him.
Yeah,
continues to be good, and people want to punish Makar for having good teammates and saying, okay, but he's got all this talent to play with, not realizing that all that talent has gotten so much better than it ever was.
Listen to EJ after the Cup. What can they take from you? Get a Cale Makar.
That's insane.
And to me, I agree. This was, to me, Cale Makar became the best hockey player in the world during this playoff run. And
I'm not going there, but
in the same way that Dallas fans could chant Eddie's better, I can do that because they beat McDavid. But
fair enough.
He's at least in the conversation now. And what's so cool is that the national media became very aware of it. Everyone knows Cale Makar. He won the Norris. But the conversations that started happening about Cale Makar were like, oh, God, he is so much better than any other defenseman in the league.
This Bobby Orr thing, that guy's been the untouchable, right?
Yep.
And then it was Paul Coffey. And then it was like, well, Paul Coffey didn't really play a lot of defense. And then... and then it was, we went into the era of Scott Stevens and Chris Prongers, the bruisers that really took over. And now you're back. You're like, oh, he's actually just Bobby Orr.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the caliber of player we're talking about here.
For me, the lasting moment is the third period against the Lightning, where, again, I talk about how this team was different, and it felt like they just had this drive that they were going to get the cup. In that third period, they were just like, fuck everything.
Yeah.
No way we're losing this game.
The first shot on goal that they give up is a dump in from center ice 11 minutes in.
I've never seen anything like it in terms of a team hitting another gear. Like, they're at the finish line of an Iron Man, and they turned it up to a new level for 20 minutes. And I think it all culminates, like, that whole effort culminates in Landy's skate getting knocked off, and he's getting dragged off the ice, and it's just like they left everything, including their skate blades, on the ice for that last 20 minutes.
10 seconds left. Who's down in the corner at the other end of the ice, 200 feet away from his own net, forechecking to keep the puck from getting out cleanly? It's Cale Makar.
Of course.
Forechecking Steven Stamkos, 200 feet away. Just the individual efforts when you go back and watch the final 90 seconds of that game. They're like the Lightning. The Lightning get nothing.
They literally swallowed the Lightning whole in the third period, and we're just like, no, this is over. It's over. We aren't even gonna let you get close. And they got one. Yep. They got one chance.
They got two.
The weirdest, for me, the very defining part of this whole season was some random Boston game where they played like complete shit. The third period, they're like, we're not losing today. They come back from a 3-0, tie it, take it overtime, and win the game.
Yeah,
that's when I knew they were winning.
Teams that just had it. But you're okay. So they get two chances, but you know
they get 2-on-1. The Kucherov misses, and then they get the one timer that Kucherov puts into Kemper's chest.
Yep.
And Kemper has to make that save. That's the save where you're like,
yep. We said all playoffs. You just need Darcy to make
everything. Like, you forget all of it that puts you in that moment, and you're like, this is the save that he has to make.
Yep.
And he makes it, and there's no rebound.
Other moment I'd throw out there, that third period when they win 7-0, that's just a party. Like, Ball Arena is just going insane. You're up 7-0. I mean, you take a 2-0 lead, which doesn't mean you're going to win, but you're in great shape, and you're playing like that.
Mm-hmm. Who scores those two goals?
Cale Makar. Cale Makar.
He scores a shorthanded goal. He kills 55 seconds of a penalty. All right? And they're up 5-0. It's the third period. He gets the puck, and instead of just being like every other NHL defenseman in the entire NHL, every single one of them in that situation, puck comes to their blade, they would have just flipped it out. Yep. And instead, he takes it and he goes, "Yeah, we're going to attack this." And he goes down, and he scores a shorthanded goal.
Yep.
And you're just like,
what's so interesting is in game 2. The Avs had scored so many 2-on-1 goals in those two games. Like, I can't count them, 4 or 5. And then they did. I don't even think they got another good opportunity out of it the rest of the series. Like, credit to Tampa, they kind of
got back on their ice.
And it wasn't even the one timer. It was the guy with the puck just beating Vasilevsky
well, that's because
every time.
The other guy on the other end of those 2-on-1s kept being Andrew Cogliano, who couldn't shoot.
Didn't Josh Manson just like have a 3-on-1 and just call his own number?
Yeah.
Put it in.
In that same game, he scores the second goal of game 2 to make it 2-0.
Yep.
He puts it. It's the same play as Makar's.
All right, we got to hit that super chat. Then we're gonna get your guys' rankings real quick before we get out of here. This comes in from El Josarino. He says, "Love the Stanley Cup. Mission accomplished. I can't get by the consistent winning by the Bolts. Whining. That makes way more sense on every goal because they did not win.
You got to get by that, bro. But." Good God. So I'm talking to AJ about this on Sunday night, and he's like, you should have seen me on the watch along. So I get home that night, and I went back and watched the watch along. And when they score the second goal and they're whining again, AJ has an epic meltdown that literally will make you so happy to watch now.
I need to go find that.
Yeah. I was big mad.
Yes.
If you have it pulled up, yeah. Oh, let's hit these rankings real quick. AJ.
It's so good.
Can we pull the... Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we can do both at the same time.
Okay.
We're trying to pull up the rankings.
No, we can find this. We can. Okay. So but the reason why I was angry about this, right, is because like you have to like lose with some grace here.
Absolutely.
And like you give up a goal, and like I understand that you're upset that like a thing has happened that goes against you, but really I was gonna say, can we mute that way you guys look? And it was every single thing that went against Tampa Bay for 3 games now. It was
crying,
constant whining about everything.
And I'll just chime in. I think it's one of the great parts of hockey that this usually doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, like you watch basketball, you expect to see them whine and moan about every single thing that goes against
call.
And it happens in a lot of sports. It really doesn't happen that much in hockey.
Yeah, like they'll talk to the refs. Like they'll have conversations and stuff.
But you don't see guys like slamming their
you don't
sticks.
see Pat Maroon full-on two-handing Josh Manson because he's big mad.
Yeah.
You don't see Steven Stamkos shooting the puck at the referee after he calls a blatant penalty.
Yeah.
It was everything. And both goals, they're like, come here, come talk to me.
And they gave him so much time.
Yeah.
It's like
The first one was like 3 minutes.
and I was like, there's nothing challengeable here. What are we doing?
Yeah.
So this is so good.
I get to watch me lose my
This is
shit.
so good.
I've never seen this.
I was mad, dude.
Make sure people can hear it. So give us one.
Okay.
Let me just tell you, I was really lit up.
This is honestly an epic moment. It's nothing like
Moment of the
This is
playoff.
gonna be really loud.
wait for it.
What are you whining about now? Are you fucking kidding me? What are you whining about now? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Tampa Bay. Shut your goddamn mouths.
Oh my god.
Every goal, bro. Best pass, NA. Pass it off the defender's skate. The other direction. Totally calculated. There is nothing there. There's nothing there, bro. What are you complaining about? Are you
so
complaining
mad.
because you're a little bitch? I mean, he is Pat Maroon. And he two hands it. Oh, he saw it coming too. What a little bitch. It's like Nessa. That should be fucking 2 minutes. It should be,
It
bro.
should
Absolutely be 2
Should
minutes.
have been more.
How the fuck can you whine when you keep getting every goddamn break under the sun?
Thank you for the $10,
Just
Alex.
shut the fuck up!
Gotta get some American bucks in there as well. What are they reviewing? What are you bitching about?
All right, let's go.
My elbow hurts.
Oh god.
That was honestly so. I watched that the next day probably 4 times.
Wow. All right, Yair, can we pull up AJ's rankings first?
Sorry for derailing.
It's all good.
Oh, it's all good. All right, let's see what we got. Number 1 here.
All right, there it is.
2001
So
Avs.
the only reason that I have 2001 over 2022 Avs was Patrick Waugh versus Darcy Kemper.
Okay.
If Darcy Kemper had been a little better in the postseason, I think I would be more comfortable putting this year's team. This year's team, I think, is one of the most dominant in NHL history, postseason, regular season, everything considered. That was one of the most impressive wire-to-wire performances that we've ever seen. But if we're stacking them up, Patty Waugh had big moments. He won that Conn Smythe for a reason.
Yeah.
Because he had to help get that team across the finish line. And Darcy Kemper was not that guy this year. Now, he didn't have to be, as we saw, but I think that was the only difference. That was the only thing that kept me from putting this year's team at number 1.
This is an interesting start because it's telling me our rankings are going to be very different.
Yeah,
Number
sorry.
2. Let's get
It's
number
gonna be
2
the
up
other
there.
Avs.
Yep, makes
All right.
sense. Talked about that.
And I wanna stress that this is more like 1A, 1B, 1C with
Yep.
the 98
Okay.
Broncos. Because
Okay.
the 98 Broncos were absolutely dominant. They kicked the shit out of everybody. Their biggest thing for the 98 Broncos for me is that I don't think they were really tested in the playoffs.
But that's why we'll get to
No,
mine.
well, and that's not their fault because there's the big what if. We even had it in chat. What if it was Minnesota?
Yeah.
And I think there's with both of those Avalanche teams didn't have that. They took down the defending champs, and they did it
Convincingly.
And you know, the 0-1 it was 7, but this one was pretty. The Avs beat the Lightning this year pretty convincingly.
I thought so too, yeah.
Close, you know, 2 overtime wins. Where if you talk yourself into it, but if you also go back and watch those overtimes, the Lightning were not in either one of those games.
Number
Gotta go see
4.
the final tally. I tweeted out the tally before the Stanley Cup final of what the Avs shots on goal were against other
Yeah.
teams in overtime, but I think it ends up being like something around.
Well, the first one wasn't very long, so the numbers aren't very big
think
because the Avs ended it like 2 minutes in, and then the second one was 10-3.
I think it's 40-12.
Yeah, it was completely dominant. The Avs trashed overtime in this
Yeah.
postseason.
I think it's 40-12.
But yeah, so I had 98 Broncos as a very, very, very close like you're gonna have them higher, and I'm gonna be completely fine with that. And then I think this one is really easy. The '97 Broncos were a great team. They weren't an all-time great team, but they also weren't like a forgettable champion.
Like,
2015.
yeah. But they're not a powerhouse.
Yeah,
The
and
top
then
3 are powerhouses.
yeah, the top 3 are teams that you can make arguments for top 5 teams ever in their respective sports.
Number 5, you've got the 96 Avs.
Yeah, 96 is the 96 Avs, a great hockey team. But if you go back and look at that defense, they really got by with solid players, but nobody really. No, they didn't have that dude. You know,
Right.
01, you have Bork, Blake, and Foote. This year we have McCarr, Taves, Byram. Yeah, Byram. Next
that on
year,
social media.
next year you're gonna have those guys again. But the 96 guys, like Krupp was great in that run.
Yep.
Sandis Ozolinsh was great in that run, but they weren't like that caliber of player.
Right.
But they all had they were all involved in huge moments. So
And then the
I think
2015
this is the only one that
Broncos.
is in the same spot as
yeah,
me.
the 2015 Broncos was very clearly the worst of those teams.
I'm so glad we have like a new championship in our adult lives.
Yeah. Championships are fun.
They
Championships
are.
are fun.
Yeah.
Let's see Ryan.
This was the most fun I've ever had watching sports. Was this Avs run?
That's fair.
All right, number 1, 98 Broncos. I went back and forth hard between my number 1 and number 2. This was like a grueling exercise. I didn't even really enjoy it. I spent almost my entire plane ride working on this morning, and
That makes me feel bad because I literally did mine while I was asleep.
I just couldn't decide. What I came down to with this is like they just didn't even ever have a moment of doubt, and I don't really think this Avs team did either. You could make a case when it was like 1-1 against the Blues, people were a little nervous.
Yeah, that's when Kendall got written. So
Yeah, exactly.
I would say people got a little jumpy.
But the 98 Broncos, it was just like everyone just get out of the way, like a wagon's coming down the tracks. And the way they beat teams too, just running the ball all over them,
Yeah.
is just like so demoralizing. Like they just beat the shit out of everyone. So that was my deciding factor.
Physically dominant football team is a rare one.
And I even looked at like percentage of games played. Like I was doing math on my calculator. Like they just won. They won at such an insane rate, and they won so easily most of the time that I just had to go with them.
Number 2?
Number 2, 2022 Avalanche.
Okay.
I put them over the 2001 Avalanche just because they weren't. No game 7s is basically what it came down to.
They, another thing about the 2001 team that I didn't mention, but you lose Peter Forsberg and you win 2 rounds without Peter Forsberg.
Yep.
And so that is the kind of adversity that this year's team, like, no offense to Sam Girard, of course, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, Sam Girard.
Like
Peter Forsberg.
Sam Girard's, but he got replaced seamlessly by Bowen Byram.
Yep.
It's a good break for the Avs, but I mean, losing Peter Forsberg, there was no replacement for that, and you could tell by the end of that 2001 run that depth had taken its toll. The injuries had really piled up for him because that top 6, it's Tanguay, it's Hayduk, it's Sakic, it's Chris Drury, but it's also Dan Highnote.
Yep.
And that did not happen to this year's team. This year's team was a lot deeper at forward because, I mean, they get by without a 61-point player in Andre Burakovsky who opened their postseason on the 3rd line.
What's really interesting about what you said and why you had the 2001 Avs up so high was because of Patrick Waugh. And one of the reasons why I put the 2022 Avalanche over 01 is because the 2022 Avalanche didn't need Patrick Waugh.
And that's a fair. This is also a fair point that I'm totally open to, is that they were such an incredibly well-built team that they got by with the worst goaltending that a Cup champion has had in 40 years.
Right.
And it's like, if you put Patrick Waugh on that team, What do they then just
Undefeated.
win those extra 4 games?
Yes.
Like, do they maybe does Patrick Waugh steal one extra game for you? Maybe, maybe I don't know.
I don't know. They might go 82-0 and 16-0 in the postseason.
Yeah, so like that, I'm completely open to also this. It's a perfectly fair point.
Like, I think about the way my heart was beating when Patrick Waugh is stealing Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, and it's just like it felt like he had to save their asses like over and over and over again. It was like Darcy just like had to make some routine saves in Game 6. And
well, when you look at the third period of Game 6, and you're like, what did the goalie have to do? He made one save, one memorable save.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm just like, this team from top to bottom was just so unbelievable that I honestly, it was between these two for one for me. And then number 3 is 2001 Avs.
Okay.
Number 4, 96 Avs.
Why 96 over the Broncos? Or is it like they're kind of the same tier of champion and
that's kind of where
we're
I was
splitting hairs here?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
I'm cool with that.
I didn't really, obviously, they're right around the same era of my life, which is very, very young. So I didn't have like a lot of nuance to compare it to.
Yeah.
I think with the and one other thing I wanted to say about 98 on top. 4 Hall of Famers on that team. Do that
MVP.
2022 Avs, or does 2001 Avs have 4 Hall of Famers?
Yes.
I bet, yeah.
Are you serious?
So it's Forsberg, Waugh,
Sakic,
and
Blake,
and Blake and
Bork.
So 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have Adam Foote, who is considered a border. Like, he won't ever get in.
Yep.
But Adam Foote and Milan Hajduk are both guys that are like.
But that wasn't
Anyway.
the conversation I wanted to have. The conversation is 2022. How many Hall of Famers does that team have?
You're gonna have McKinnon.
Yep,
You're gonna have
Makar.
Makar. You're gonna have Byram.
Oh, he calls Byram.
Yeah.
I like that. Does Landy have an outside shot?
No. Oh, and I'm sorry. You're gonna have Miko.
I said both of them.
My bad. Yeah, my bad.
You said Bo Byram?
Oh no. I
Okay.
said,
But Miko.
Andy and Nico.
Yeah,
but Landy won't get in. He just hasn't had that kind of
the
career.
stats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if they go and steal a couple more cups.
Well, and if he continues, let's say Landeskog plays because he's been a point per game guy the last couple of years. Let's say he does 3 more years of point per game.
Couple more
What-
cups?
what
And
could-
2 cups.
Yeah.
If he gets 2 more cups, then I think you're talking about the Jonathan Taves. You're the leader of this
Of
whole
a
thing.
dynasty.
You
Yes.
have to, if you're the face, if you're the captain of a dynasty, I think
get
in
in.
that case he probably gets in.
All right.
But you're then putting this Avalanche group up there with the 80s Oilers, the 80s Islanders,
Yep.
the Taves, the 2010s Blackhawks. You're talking about among the greatest groups of players in NHL history.
And personally, I don't see any reason why they can't.
So
Yeah.
they could, for sure.
They just need to do it.
It's absolutely possible, but it's not.
It's you're asking a lot.
As I sit
Yeah.
here today, I would say Landeskog is on the out. He has a lot more work to do.
But so does Mikko Rantanen.
And right,
Yeah.
but Mikko Rantanen has been a point
Yeah.
per game player 5 years into his career.
Yeah.
And if he has 5 more years of that,
Yeah.
then he can do that thing where he gets old and he has 60 points in 80 games for 5 years, and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And he ends up with 1,300 points, and he ends up with 500 goals, and he's got a Stanley Cup and maybe another one. And, maybe he has like a Hart Trophy caliber season or something in him because he's still young enough that we can have that conversation.
And maybe you get
I now
Bednar
remember
in too.
why I put 96 Avs over 97 Broncos, and that is because they dominated the championship. They sweep the Panthers, whereas like the Broncos, it was a close game. You don't take anything away from that.
Yeah, but the 97 Broncos beat a real team there. And the 96 Panthers are one of the worst teams to ever make the Cup Finals.
As proven by the Avs.
Well, and I mean, like, you don't want to take they beat good teams to get there.
Yeah.
They beat those Penguins teams.
Yep.
With all the Hall of Fame talent. They beat and they did that. They won those games. They got there. But when in NHL history, they are one of the weakest Cup Finals teams to ever get there.
And then the last spot here.
Last one, like I said, I think it's the one that we were matched up on, which is 2015 Broncos.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yep.
They were just miserable. The one thing that I don't think I gave the Avalanche enough credit, now that I think about it back, is the fact that they beat Detroit, the 62 win
Yes.
Red Wings in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean that was the Stanley Cup.
And that ended up being, I mean, your 3 of your Final 4, you had such a good chance at an amazing Cup final between either Detroit and Colorado against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then Florida wins that thing, and you're like, well, I guess they get to get run over now.
Yeah, totally.
But the Avs going through the 62 win Red Wings was something I probably did not give them enough credit for, oddly enough.
We will revisit this
Yes, we
ranking
will.
next year when we have to figure out where to place the 2023 Avalanche.
Do we do it between the Nuggets and Avalanche championships, or do we just wait till they both win?
Well, we gotta wait. We gotta wait till they both win. 'Cause
Well, okay.
Jokic is gonna do something that the NBA has never seen
He
before
is.
in his first finals.
Average
He
triple-double
is.
in the
Yeah,
finals?
like straight up, he's going to. Well, it's gonna be like a 40, 15, and 10 kind of thing.
I was gonna get us out of here, but I like where this is going. All right,
yeah.
You
that's
know,
gonna
like,
that's
come
gonna
on.
to do it for today. We'll be back next week. I think next week we're actually gonna talk about who is which teams deserve the most to be champions out of Denver, but didn't get the championship. So we'll talk about 2012 Broncos, that sort of stuff.
The 2000 Avs.
Okay.
That team was so good,
Okay.
man.
I like this. We've already got a.
I know. It's old teaser. We're going to cut it up right there.
Oh,
Be back
97
next
Avs?
week. We'll be
President's
talking about
Trophy.
then. It's going to be a lot of fun. Give us a like on the way out, and that'll do it for the Denver Sports Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, nailed it. Nailed it. There we go. See you next
guys.
week.